Hi, everyone. Welcome to Conversations with the Business Nextdoor. Thank you for joining us. I'm Anne Morello. I'm the communications lead at Nextdoor Canada. If you're not familiar with Nextdoor, we are the neighborhood app, and we're on a mission to ensure everyone has a neighborhood they can rely on. Along with our amazing partners at Square Canada, we've put together a 4-part conversation series dedicated to small businesses. Today, in our third conversation, we're going to dive into business transformation and discuss strategies and tools to help you transform your business. To lead this conversation, we are incredibly lucky to welcome Karisa Marra, who is the small business expert at Square Canada. As a small business expert, Karisa spends her days helping business owners overcome the challenges of running and growing their businesses. This really makes her the perfect person to lead this very important conversation. Karisa, thank you so much for being here. Over to you.
Thanks, Anne. I'm so excited to be here and discuss a topic that is more important today than maybe ever: transforming your business. Over the past 6 years, I've worked closely with businesses of all shapes and sizes from coast to coast in Canada. I've witnessed small farmers market sellers transform into multi-location brick and mortar businesses. Transforming isn't easy. It takes planning, patience, and grit. At the start of 2020, we would have never anticipated the need for transformation like we have over the past 8 months. We've listened to and worked closely with businesses as they found new products to sell, new ways to reach their customers, and transition into the digital world. I am so excited for the panelists that have joined us today to discuss transformation, as each comes with different experiences and insights that they can share. So first we have Darryl Julott from Digital Mainstreet. A strategic relationship builder and digital marketing expert, Darryl currently leads Digital Mainstreet in their mission to assist all Main Street businesses of the City of Toronto as they navigate digital transformation. Before life at DMS, Darryl was responsible for managing and working with the top 180 retailers at the Retail Council of Canada, which provided a very unique opportunity to navigate association management, government relations, industry research, and member relations. Thanks for coming, Darryl. Next, we have Serene Yew, founder of Pixeltree, co-founder of localshops.com, and a lead organizer of YYCDev. Serene is a veteran of the software industry. No stranger to the world of innovation and entrepreneurship, she has worked across a variety of industries such as social media, finance, and e-commerce, leading teams of all skill level and sizes. Serene is passionate about building sustainable membership ecosystems, fostering community stewardship within the Calgary tech sector, and helping forward-thinking companies turn their ideas into reality. Thanks, Serene, for coming. And last but not least, we have Santiago Lopez, owner of the Columbian Coffee Roastery. With a desire to be a part of something meaningful, Santiago and his wife, Kristen, discovered their passion for coffee on the family coffee farm while on a trip to Santiago's birthplace of Colombia, a place I think we probably wish we were right now. They launched the Columbian, an Edmonton-based roastery, in 2017 at local farmers markets, and expanded in 2018 into a full-service coffee shop with a roastery on site. They love coffee, are passionate about people, and use coffee as a catalyst to create community. They operate a values-based community, and their goal is to source, roast, and serve coffee that their customers can feel great about drinking. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
So of course, today we're here to talk about transformation in business. So I thought a great place to start would be by asking both Darryl and Serene, when it comes to the transformation of a business, a truly great pivot, is there an example from your own career that comes to mind? Let's start with Darryl.
So like personally for my career?
Yeah, exactly.
I think don't look any further than Digital Mainstreet. I think until March of this year, most of our business is predicated on, in-person, one-on-one kind of educational support, training, and teaching. So really looking at how we take that and, turn it virtual, especially as fast as we had to, with as many team members as we had to while working across the province. That was pretty incredible. I think, we're still learning, what we did wrong in March, to be quite honest. But I think just, realizing that we needed to pivot quickly in order to be able to help businesses pivot quickly was one of the things that really stood up for us.
Awesome. And Serene?
Yeah, so in the really early days of Pixeltree, we were actually a very generalized software consulting company, and it was quite difficult to compete in a very saturated industry. We found that we had a few clients who were early stage startups, and they told us that we were able to communicate with them in a way that other companies hadn't previously been able to. And so based on that feedback, we realized that this was our specialty. We rebranded the company to really focus our marketing based on these strengths and reinforce this as our core competency. This led us to meeting some startups which we have very aligned values with, like, for example, local shops. You know, because of our passion for community and startups, we were the first person that they thought of when they wanted to launch local shops with a focus on local businesses to help them in COVID era. And so I think really listening to our strengths helped us to turn the company into something that really fit with the industry instead of imposing what we thought the company should be.
Yeah, and that's always like such a hard thing to, I guess, right? You truly have to listen and actively listen to what your customers are telling you in order to know what a great pivot is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, super cool. So of course, given this current state of the economy in Canada right now with COVID-19, what types of transformations have you seen in the businesses that you interact and work with? Darryl?
That's a great question, and one that we could probably spend an entire session talking about, in all honesty. But
Yeah.
I think I'm very fortunate, you know, with the work that we do at DMS, we get to see kind of every type of business, you know, whether it's food service, you know, health and professionals, retail, restaurant, whatever it may be. So we've kind of seen a lot of cool stuff right across the board. I think, you know, personally for me, some that have stood out, you know, really looking at the fitness and the health and wellness sector and how that entire industry has shifted. You know, really taking a business that was completely predicated on in-person, you know, specific times, whatever you want to call it, and then really, you know, taking that and transferring it over to, you know, online classes and, you know, really figuring out that engagement aspect. Because for that industry, it wasn't, and I have a lot of friends who are in that space, it wasn't so much the technical aspect, you know, how do we actually do this from a technical standpoint? It was, okay, great, I got my website, I got my platform set up, how do I actually engage my customers? How do I get them to come and actually join me? So that was really cool. And then I think one, just, you know, from a personal lens, I think, and I don't think we've even scratched the surface on it yet, just because the industry has been impacted so hard. I think looking at something like the live music industry, both large and small, I think we're starting to see some really interesting transformations there. You know, we've got a great a gentleman in Toronto that does these drive-by concerts, and he's got, you know, a truck that he's kind of outfitted with almost like sliding doors on each side where a band can perform, and, you know, we can kind of put them right in a neighborhood. So, you know, really trying to bring that music element back. And then I think, you know, from a tech standpoint, a lot of the platforms are now catching on to that industry. So Zoom and Facebook and others are allowing you to now charge for live stream sessions and stuff like that. So I think just really looking at, you know, right across the board, it's everyone has had to pivot, you know, either doing a complete 180 or in some cases a complete, well, I was going to say complete 360. That doesn't make sense. But it's just been incredible. I think, like I said, you know, from A to Z, we've seen some incredible transformations.
Yeah, that's really cool. And you're right, both of those use cases that you just described, it's about community and two industries that really were never forced to go as digital as they now have to. And it's that needing to go digital in order to survive. And it's allowed them to get really creative in how they do it. I love the idea of a drive-by concert, especially all of those of us who are stuck at home, just dying for any type of entertainment. What an amazing idea of something that I wouldn't have thought of in a way to go digital. It's pretty neat. Serene, what about for yourself?
I believe in times of crisis, we see two major groups of people. Like, there's like the first group that really pulls in and starts to do everything that they can to defend everything that they have. I like to call this group the toilet paper hoarders. But I really like the second group, and that second group is comprised of the individuals and businesses whose first instinct was to ask how they can help. These are the people who are helping with grocery delivery for at-risk families, or doing their best to support local businesses, companies who were pivoting to manufacture PPE or hand sanitizers, right? Some companies had no choice but to lay off employees, but I've also seen business owners take loans, cut their own pay, you know, to ensure that they can continue to provide for their own families. And so while transition to online work is like the most obvious transformation that we're seeing. It's really also brought company values to light, both positively and negatively. People are really starting to think about what's important to them. And so the values for both employers and vendors are becoming way more apparent than ever. So as companies, we have to walk the walk, right?
Yeah.
We always talk about employees first. Like, now is our opportunity to show the world that we're actually doing what we say that we're doing. And I've seen that a lot, and businesses are getting destroyed because their values just don't align with that of their customers, and the customers can see it now.
Yeah, that's amazing, and it's true. It's on both sides, and I think that's a really good segue. Santiago, I've been to Edmonton. One thing that you always hear about Edmonton is how amazing the community is there. What have you seen in terms of your community, in terms of transformation? Have you seen anything interesting there that maybe is unique to Edmonton and not other communities in Canada?
You know what, I wouldn't just want to generalize it to Edmonton, but I think in general people have realized that if they want certain amenities that they have close to their homes, they really want to support those things. So I think a lot of people in Edmonton had rallied to like support local. There's been a lot of campaigns in terms of doing those sort of things, and honestly, like, it is thanks to that community that we have been able to be successful throughout this whole time. Like, it was really challenging at the beginning. Like, as a business owner, not only were we dealing with the looming pandemic and all the things that it could bring, but also like trying to have that leadership so that your staff could get through it, and like trying to get staff to work without making them feel like you were putting them in any sort of risk or anything like that. So it's kind of like walking that fine line of like, what are they comfortable with? What does the business need? So I think it is thanks to kind of like the community and like the field that we have been able to stay relevant and be successful.
Amazing. And you definitely see it in any city, I think, in Canada, and probably the world. I would hope the world, but it's been pretty special to see communities rally together and make sure that these small businesses really thrive. In your experience, what has your experience as a business owner been like through the pandemic?
Do you want the long or the short version? So I'll just summarize it for you guys, because we could talk about this like for the rest of the hour. But essentially, it was kind of like a day by day. Like for the first month or two, we were kind of like taking day by day because we didn't know what the government was going to do. Then on the back end, we were also dealing again with employees that some of them just didn't feel comfortable, and we didn't want to make somebody feel like they had to come to work. So we gave them the opportunity to stay at home and kind of like set them up so that they could still get paid and all that sort of stuff. But also then it fell on me and a couple of other leadership key people in the business to kind of like run the operation. So like for the first 6 months of COVID, I didn't have a single day off. So just from that standpoint, like, it was pretty full on, and it wasn't like short days, it was long days. And to all that stuff of like regular operations, you add all the pivots, because every day you realize, oh, today we cannot open the coffee shop anymore and sit people. So how do we barricade our employees so that they're safe, and how do we still showcase what our company is? Because like I don't know if you guys have done any research about our company, but we're actually a value-based company that it is very important for us to not just sell coffee, but to create community. Like, we use coffee as a catalyst to do this. So we have actually borrowed different things from Walt Disney to kind of like create that magic in our business, and not just sell coffee, but like sell happiness. And how do you do that when you're masked up, when you're putting barricades and all these things? So it's just like, how do you pivot to do that? So we actually, thanks to Square, they around the same time that we were thinking about how do we set up a sort of drive-through, because we've never done drive-through. That's not what we're all about. And how do we make a drive-through friendly? Not like that frumpy thing that you just drive through and like there's no human connection of any kind. So through the curbside service, we were able to actually like still go and like smile to someone, give them their coffee, thank them for coming by. And then on top of it, we were also able to pivot and find like 2 other revenue streams. Like, I think in the first couple months of COVID, we sold more coffee online than in the previous couple of years. So like that has been huge, and that has held steady since. And now we have realized that the future is online. Like, how do we reach more people, not just in Edmonton, but in other places in Canada, using online platforms for like marketing, for like selling, for like creating that community, even if it's not in our immediate community. So yeah, I mean, like it's been challenging, guys, but there's a lot of silver linings with this situation for business owners, and we just got to be flexible and think outside the box.
Oh, I love it. And it kind of goes back a little bit to what Serene was saying about your values as a company and who you are, and you talking about being this like friendly face and this smile, sort of like the Disneyland of coffee, and the way that you were able to find a way to still hand coffee to your customers with a smile during all of this. My guess is that probably made someone's day, maybe somebody who didn't get to see anyone else in that day. So I think that's pretty phenomenal. The idea of transforming and pivoting is probably pretty overwhelming for business owners, just as you described, especially with everything else that you have to manage day to day. And if you are the business owner working 60, 80-hour work weeks, I imagine the idea is just too overwhelming to digest. How would you view the process of transformation for business owners? What steps would you advise they take first? Serene, why don't we start with you?
I think they need to step back and think about what the core values of their business is. So using Santiago as an example, since he already so nicely demonstrated it as a perfect segue, you know, they stepped back as a company and thought about what was important to them. What were their values? What were they trying to bring to the world? And as he was saying, you know, we want to bring happiness. Coffee is just one way that they can do it. And so for companies, instead of always looking at the bottom line, if you go back and read all the Jim Collins business books from the 90s, he always says you need to look at your values first, stick to them, and your profits and your revenue and your profits will just naturally come. So I think, you know, companies need to step back and think about, what are we trying to deliver? What are we selling here? What value are we bringing to the world? And then build your solutions around those. You know, the software, for example, digitization, those are all just tools to help you to accomplish what you want to accomplish. Those are the tools to sell whatever it is you're selling, whether it's a smile or whether it's you know, a widget. Those are just tools. You don't need to get super attached to tools. That's all they are. But your values should not be changing. So focus on those first.
Values, love it. Darryl, suggestion, where should people start?
Yeah, so I'm gonna pick up on what Serene said, and I agree with stepping back, but I take a different lens. I always tell business owners, not that I disagree with anything Serene said, I completely agree, but I always tell business owners, you know, don't do something just for the sake of doing it. So don't go out and purchase a new piece of hardware or software just because, you know, some fast talking salesman has come into your store. So oftentimes we'll tell them the same thing, which is, you know, instead of just jumping right into it 2 feet, actually take that step back and, you know, do a little reflection. You know, what do I currently have in place? You know, what do I need? What are my goals here? You know, what do I actually need to achieve those goals? And then you can start to actually put a strategy in place based on kind of that full picture view. So when you're looking at something like transformation, if you're not kind of looking at it holistically across your entire business, then you're not really transforming. You're just kind of, you know, fixing one issue, right? And then that's one of the biggest challenges we work with is, you know, and we do a lot of work with great partners on this, is business owners tend to, you know, for the most part, I know I'm generalizing here, and I don't mean everyone, but a lot of the times when you talk about something like digital transformation, you know, the thoughts kind of bubbles that pop into their head are, you know, websites, social media, e-commerce. And then, you know, we have a lot of conversations with businesses around, you know, how you can use digital transformation to streamline your business operations, how you can use it to make yourself more efficient, how you can use it to manage your staff in a better way, you know, how you can do all these different elements. And then, you know, you'll kind of see their eyes light up, right? It's like, oh, okay, you know, you've kind of piqued that nerve. But that's kind of the goal, is, you know, showing them that, you know, taking that step back allows you to see that bigger picture, and then allows you to proceed, you know, kind of with all the knowledge and I guess ammo that you need to really make that full scale transformation.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, we see a lot of that also at Square. Just businesses recognize that they need to change, they need to transform, but they don't have that full picture because they don't necessarily know all of the possibilities. And hopefully you can partner with somebody who can give you that holistic view and make you see all the possibility. And then you can pick and choose what fits your business best and what your ultimate goals are for your business. And then I think a business owner right on the ground who was just forced to transform and pivot a lot, Santiago, where would you suggest people start when they're thinking about transformation?
You know what? It just depends on the business, but I think like the biggest thing for transformation, I think Darryl said it, is you need to look at the big picture, not just look at the one thing that is in front of you, and you need to look at what one little transformation in one area could do to the entire business, and really make a decision based on the bigger picture. Because like when you transform, you have to be very open-minded. You will change a lot of things in your organization when you do that, and you have to make sure that you're able to manage that transformation. And the biggest thing, you just have to be open-minded to it. Like a lot of business owners, because we have so many things on the go, and we have like so much stress, and we're just trying to kind of like cope with everything. Sometimes we just don't have like the open mind to maybe like look at different ideas that either other people or that we read about have, and we just kind of like bypass those things. And sometimes you need to like step back, like Serene said, and just see what else there's out there that can make your business more streamlined. Like for us, some of the systems that we implemented, we actually became a leaner company from a business standpoint. Like we're more profitable. Like the bottom line was much better because we were able to streamline a lot of our systems, and we just didn't have to pay as much for certain things that we just needed like 2 or 3 staff. We were able to streamline it so that one person could do it, or just 2. So like those are the things that business owners need to look at. It's just like the big picture, and just be open-minded to it.
I love it. So I'm sure all the business owners listening are thinking like, that's great, guys. Amazing. Thanks. Values, big picture. But what if I do the wrong thing? What if I think this is it, but it's wrong, or I pivot in the wrong way? What are the common mistakes that you all see these business owners or people you work with take when it comes to pivoting? Darryl?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm going to go back to my original answer, which is I think, doing something just for the sake of doing it, right? And not really having that true kind of reason or just motive for doing it. And that's the biggest issue. And again, there's a lot of risk. There's businesses are inundated with salespeople. Maybe less now, just given the nature of the world that we're living in. But pre-COVID, you had salespeople coming to your store probably 10 times a day, right? Selling you a payment process or a loyalty program, or God knows what. And it's easy to kind of just fall in love with an idea. But also, I think the biggest mistake is not asking for help. And like, this isn't a shameless plug for Digital Mainstreet, but between Digital Mainstreet, local governments, all of our partners, what Square is doing, what other organizations are doing, like there are so many resources and opportunities out there for free support that I know sometimes it's hard to kind of work up that courage to say like I don't know. And I really just have no idea, and I want that kind of added validation, or just somebody to kind of sign off and say they agree. But there's so many resources out there. So I would just implore anyone listening, please, whether it's reaching out to myself, Santiago, Serene, Karisa, or anyone in your local region, there's going to be resources available to help you.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's great advice, because there's just so much more available to people in today's world, especially right now, because we've all been forced to pivot in our own businesses to make sure we're supporting the community. So I think that's amazing. Serene, how about yourself?
Well, you are going to make mistakes. You just are. That's just a fact of life. It's a fact of business. Don't hang on too tightly to those mistakes. If possible, try to make smaller decisions that have smaller impacts if you think that your risk is really high, and so that you can pivot easily. If you pick a partnership that you don't think that you're not sure is going to work out, maybe don't get too tightly coupled to them. Don't hang on too tightly to previous investments or assumptions that you made before. Sunk cost fallacy. Just because you've invested a whole bunch of money in something doesn't mean that you need to keep it. It doesn't mean that you don't need to keep it, but look at the evidence as facts and then follow where they lead. If you feel like you're too close to the problem, pick a third party like a mentor, or get some advice from a company that specializes in it. Usually they're happy to have a conversation with you to try to make that sale, but you don't have to choose that vendor. You can always just ask them questions and see what they say. If you pick a vendor, or you pick a software, or you pick a process that doesn't work for your team, and your team says we don't like it, listen to them. Listen to your people.
I love it. Listening, active listening, and flexibility. Yeah, it's great. It probably applies to every single industry and every business out there and every employee going. Santiago, you already mentioned a few times, and we also read that you view coffee as a catalyst to create community. How has COVID-19 changed your relationship with your local community, if at all?
You know what? I think it just kind of like has brought us together and closer to our customers, because now it's not just about coffee. Like we have been kind of like and especially during the shutdown times where people didn't have anywhere else to go, we were kind of like the gateway for them to kind of like have some human interaction. So it kind of like brought us closer and like allowed us to get to know a lot of our customers and have a more personal relationship with them, which I find is very special, because we were able to do what we set out to do, which is create a community and just build those relationships with customers that necessarily don't have like family or don't have other people that they can talk to. They know that they can come here and we'll treat them like family, and they'll leave happier than when they come in.
Cool. It's almost like COVID hasn't really changed anything, or it's like expedited your relationships in some way with all of your customers.
And I will say it has consolidated a lot of things, and it has just made us realize that the way that we do business, by being a value-based company, is the only way to do business. Because when you have those values that are kind of like driving everything that you do, like the intentionality behind everything that you do at the business really shows through, and people do notice those things.
Yeah, that's great. Many businesses have been forced during COVID-19 to pivot and embrace digital online tools more than they ever have before. What are your top tips for businesses now to embrace digital? Let's start with Serene.
Yeah, so our company has always been digital. So when COVID hit, we didn't have a very big transition, but we work with lots of clients who keep asking us this question, which is the best video conferencing software, and where should we now store our documents? What's the best one? The answer is there is no best one. You have to pick the one that works for your company. Figure out which features you really need, which ones are nice to have, which ones you don't actually need at all but look really shiny out front. This information is going to help you to provide to make the best decisions for your organization. Don't forget to think about security though, and ask the software providers about what they're doing to make sure your data is secure. That's something that's really, it's really important, especially in this day and age, to make sure that your data is protected. So ask those questions up front if you do have a sales representative that you can talk to about those. And again, if you pick a product, it doesn't work, team doesn't like it, pick a different one. Try another one. It's okay.
Yeah. Just don't lock yourself into anything, and know that it's okay to change.
Don't sign a 10-year contract.
It's like the one message of today. Don't do that. Santiago, what would you say if someone was thinking about going online? What are your top tips?
Honestly, just be open-minded. It's going to change a lot of things for you. I would also agree with Serene in terms of like, don't just pick one thing because your buddy got it and he thinks it's great. Like, pick something that it's really good for the stuff that you need to do in your business. So like, pick the solution that works. And again, if it doesn't work, then just like move on to the next thing. Like, I wouldn't call it a mistake. I would just call it a learning opportunity, and then just move on to the next thing. But always just put your business and what the business needs in the forefront, and then everything else will come together for you.
Yeah, and I think when you first start going, looking at like any new solution for your business, you'll think that your top 3 or top 5 priorities are one thing, And those top 3 or 5 things might completely change as soon as you start using the solution you pick. So I think, like, I guess being okay with being wrong, and knowing that it's not that you're wrong, you just, shifted and you changed a little bit is okay.
Definitely.
Yeah. Darryl, how about yourself? This is your
Well,
area.
aside from agreeing with everything that my fellow panelists have said, I think, just building on what Serene said is, and again, everything I'm not going to reiterate my last answer around just don't do it for the sake of doing it, but don't get lost in the big shiny toy, the big shiny fancy new thing. What we found with a lot of businesses is oftentimes the most impactful digital transformations have been the smaller behind the scenes ones. Like, yes, a new fancy website, makes you feel good because it's out there, it's public facing, like you have that. But when you're looking at impact, like sometimes, the small things that you're going to do operationally behind the scenes, streamline efficiencies or, provide better staff experience, stuff like that. Like those are the things that, in long term will have a much larger impact on the business. So just kind of don't get caught in that, tunnel vision of just like, oh, this is the big fancy, you know what I mean? I need that new Apple computer for the front of my store so people think that, I'm running a really cool business here. It's focused on the stuff that actually matters, and then, again, look at kind of the big, whole holistic picture to Santiago's point.
Yeah, amazing. And then, of course, in COVID-19, we noticed this huge shift to online out of necessity. Of course, immediately in March, everyone said, oh my goodness, I need to be online and I need a way to get my product out the door. But also we've seen a lot of creativity amongst the seller community during this shift. What trends in online and digital engagements are you seeing that started during COVID-19? And which ones do you expect to be with us long term? Serene.
I think people are really getting addicted to delivery.
Probably with good reason.
Yeah, for sure. I think people are just seeing how much more convenient it is now, and they are actually willing to pay for that convenience. So I don't think that's really going to go away. I don't think it'll be quite as peak as it is right now, but I think that people are going to expect most businesses to deliver, and I think it's going to be an expectation for small businesses, which is it's going to be a bit of a hurdle, I think, to get over. In terms of employers, though, I think that I expect to see some major changes in what employees are expecting for employers to provide. Like, I think they are going to demand like paid sick time off and remote work if that's something that makes sense for the position. In terms of the economy, I see people really making the effort now to support small local businesses as they're realizing the impact on that something like that has on the local economy. We don't really think about it usually, and now people are starting to realize that restaurants are all small businesses, and the shops you go, farmers markets are small businesses, right? What are they doing during the pandemic? You can't buy everything. They don't have as much ability to go online. Like, how are we supporting them? So, and I think that I don't know if that one's going to stay, but I'm really hoping that effort to support small businesses does stay. Me
too. It feels there has been a shift online in terms of social media where we really talk about our communities a lot right now, and I love it. I much would prefer to go create a relationship with the person down the street who's really struggling to run their business and thrive, instead of a faceless business that I'll never have a personal relationship with. So I also hope that trend sticks around. Darryl, trends that you've noticed that you think will stick around?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with Serene. I think the best thing to come out of this, just because I tend to force myself to look on the bright side of things now. I've answered the question, how are you doing, by saying living the dream way too often in the last 6 months. So I'm now going to start just looking at that actual shift in consumer behavior. Up until this point, we've always, we've seen it. I'm not here to pick, one company or the other or highlight one specific thing, but small business month or week or support or whatever always tends to be a bit of a gimmick for certain organizations, where we'll see billboards come up and we'll see this big media rush and a big campaign, and then poof, it's gone. And there's not really any shift. It's just kind of that one weekend. But to Serene's point, we're actually seeing a shift in consumer behavior, and I think that's going to be hard to overturn. I think the challenge that we're going to have now from a business standpoint to maintain that is continued customer engagement. So it's no longer we're at a point where you have to fight so hard to just even convince, you know, anyone on this call to shop local. But now you've got to be able to provide that experience that the person who wants to shop local is expecting. So it's now on the business side of things, which is a good place to be, because now the business has the power to be able to understand that, listen, like, as long as I'm making sure that I'm engaging with my customers and I'm providing the experience that I'm known for, they're going to be able to continue to build that relationship. And I think that, you know, when we talk about long-term trends, I think the emphasis on customer engagement and really building true authentic customer relationships is going to be something just from like an importance factor is going to be top of the scale for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, it's like we've almost created a whole new job title for a small business owner. Engage with your customers, and they're looking to be engaged all the time. I know I'm looking online, like, what does this coffee shop have for lunch today? And if they're not posting on their Instagram stories, then I don't know. And is it worth the trip over just to take a guess on whether or not they have something I want, right? So yeah, we're creating a whole new job title for small business owners. So probably a good segue over to a business owner who's probably going to think about this. Sorry. What's a trend, digital or not digital, that you've noticed during COVID that you think will stick around?
Honestly, I think we're going to have to build bigger coffee shops, because people are not going to want to go into the office anymore, and they're just going to want to work out of the coffee shop. So I think, like, it won't affect our business, but the fact that people are able to work remotely now, like, that is really going to change the marketplace for sure. I think for us, like the service industry, I think the service industry is going to look very different. Like, I've already seen like some other businesses that have shifted to not having people sitting in their shops anymore, and they're just doing everything out the door through delivery services, and they have been able to actually lower their costs by doing that. So I think those are things that are going to stay, and like those restaurants that we love and we always like the experience to go there. I think also having the experience of having that delicious food delivered to your house and having it with your family without having to leave your home, like, I don't think that's going anywhere. I think people are loving that sort of stuff. Like, even for us, one of the revenue streams is that we came up with is delivering coffee beans 2 to 3 times to people's homes. Who would have thought that that was a thing, and that it doesn't cost that much more to a business, but it increases the bottom line by a substantial amount, because all of a sudden you don't even have to deal with them. Like, they just do online, and you just leave it at their door. That's it. Like, there's no interaction with them other than just like being thankful for their purchase, and that's it.
Wow, that's true. But now that you're saying, like, I should probably set up some sort of membership to get coffee, so it just arrives at my door every month. And
Definitely.
What's one action, like, when you hear all of this, and I'm not a business owner, but I can only imagine if I were a business owner, I'm hearing all these things and I'm thinking, okay, great. What's one thing that they should do or try to do, small thing, this week that you think actually could have an impact on their business and get them moving forward in the right direction? Santiago.
That is a hard one, but I think the biggest thing and the most common mistake as a business owner is not defining what is important for your business, and not defining what your values are. And like, we had some mentors when we set out to do the Columbian into like why we should do it as a value-based company, and it's a lot more work right off the bat, but down the road you see the benefits of doing that. And it really, based on those values, you're able to drive any other decisions that you make down the line, and even like hiring, like company culture, everything just goes from there. So this week, just figure out what your values are. It doesn't have to be like 10, 20, it could be like 2 or 3. When we started, we had 10, now we have 3, and under that umbrella of 3, like, we are able to operate our business and make it successful. So I think that's probably like the biggest thing.
Amazing. Serene.
Well, Santiago stole my answer.
I'm a little bit
upset about that. Values are definitely a really big thing, because I find that once you know your values, decisions are actually very easy to make. They either align with your values or they don't. But if I have to pick something else, I would say talk to your people. I bet your staff already have a whole bunch of ideas on different things you can do in the company to optimize your process and bring it online. They're the people on the ground, they're the ones talking to your customers, and they're going to have way better suggestions about what the company needs than you can, especially if you're a little bit more removed from the business. And really listen to them. And it's okay if you are wrong and they have some better ideas. It's really going to motivate them as well. If you really ask for their feedback and really ask for their advice, and implementing it, it's a great morale boost. And we know that we really could use one right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Darryl.
I feel like this is what I'm supposed to say. Visit digitalmainstreet.ca for all your answers, but no, not. No, I think just building on what Serene said, I think, one thing I always tell people is just talk to every single customer that comes into your store for a day, just for one day. Just ask every single one of them pointed questions and just gather feedback, just hear what they have to say. What do they like? What do they not like? They might just tell you something you never even thought of. But the other thing that I like to tell business owners, that's just a very easy way to just do something, is just start to write down questions. Because when you look at the bigger picture and you look at digital, especially depending on where you're at on kind of that scale from like started to never even thought about it, it can be overwhelming. So instead of trying to tackle it all at once, just take a step back, grab a piece of paper, write down 5 or 6 questions you have. It might even be, what does digital transformation mean? Like, it doesn't matter what the question is, but just start to work at your own pace. And then maybe you Google a couple of those questions. Maybe you talk to your friend who works at a web design agency just to get some high level information. Just start to slowly immerse yourself in the world. It doesn't have to be this all at once, where you're kind of jumping right in the deep end and just hoping that you're going to float in.
Yeah, it's great advice. I think that's one message we always hear from business owners is just, it feels too big. It feels like too much, and I'm not ready for that much work or to take that much on right now. And taking one small step at a time can have such a large impact in the long run if you just commit yourself to that one step every week or every day, depending on what feels comfortable. So we have time for some questions that have come in from the community, the listeners that we have. So we're going to start running through some of those. Someone with the initials GP, they asked, with all the necessary pivoting happening with local businesses right now, it's hard to sometimes see the bigger picture of what's around you. Has there been a moment this year where someone said or did something for you that made you take a step back and think about your community differently? Yeah, Darryl, go.
No, I have a great answer finally. One that I didn't pull off kind of top of my head. So nobody's asked me this yet, but a couple people have today. The reason I'm wearing a sweater and a backwards hat is because for Small Business Week, I committed to every day wearing something from one of my favorite small businesses. Cool. So this sweater is and a hat are from my favorite clothing store in Toronto, and it ties into this question. So the owner of this store, very, very small boutique, just down on Scotland Avenue, downtown Toronto. And it's him and one other person. They run the store, they do a great job, they do their thing, and that's their livelihood. Now, right at the start of COVID, obviously there was the pandemic issues, and then there's, we've been facing, maybe not as much in Canada as the US, but there's been globally just a bunch of other issues, with regards to race and all sorts of other things that have just been happening in the last couple of months, and rightfully so. And so this business owner, what he did is, for a number of reasons, actually shut down his business willingly. And when this question from GP talks about really making you take a step back and think of your community differently, he did that for 2 reasons. The first was to visibly support the Black Lives Matter movement and be able to dedicate some time and effort and resources to that. But then he also launched a campaign called Change for 100. And so what he did, and to date he's raised over $120,000. Wow! Just a single person. And he was putting calls out to anyone in need, single mother families, stuff like that, for people who were looking for support with their groceries. And so he's given out over $1,200 grocery gift cards to just families in need across the city. And when you see somebody like this, and like to give you guys perspective, this business owner, he has a relationship with somebody like Drake, who wears his clothing. Like he has a cult following. Like he can release something today and it can sell out tomorrow. Like he's that kind of business in the city. So for him to shut down, it was really, that made me take a step back, GP, and just go like, if this guy's deciding that, the tens of, I'm sure, of thousands of dollars that he was going to make in those couple of days are not as important as, him standing up for what he believes in and really trying to impact change, then what are we doing?
Yeah, like what a great example. You were right to put your hand up. Yes. To shut down a business, and when you think about a business owner and that truly is their livelihood, everything that they live, breathe, think about is this business, and to believe in something within their community so wholeheartedly, to shut that down, that's a wonderful example. Great story. Serene, Santiago, do you have something that popped into your heads in terms of that question?
Yeah, I can go next.
Awesome.
It's been a difficult year. I don't know if you guys noticed. In the spring, shortly after schools closed, a friend reached out to me and she said, you know, how are you doing? I said, I'm fine. Of course I'm fine. Like, why wouldn't I be fine? She was, well, you're a single mom running a business with 2 kids homeschooling. Oh yeah, it's rough. Yeah. But then, you know, we started talking about it more, and I'm fairly introverted. And so I've actually been okay at home. You know, most of my company has already been online. Some coffee meetings have transitioned to online, but my kids have devices. They're able to access their online school. We have reliable internet, you know, and yeah, there are a few changes, but all in all, nothing drastic really happened to me. But my girlfriend, she's an extrovert. And so just not being able to go visit her friends, you know, on a weekly basis was very life-changing for her. And then we started talking about how the lockdown has impacted different people in very, very different ways. Some of us have been really fortunate to have been able to keep our jobs, to be able to pivot. Some people didn't even have the opportunity. Right? Some people have completely lost their jobs. You know, they've lost family members. And you know, we think about our companies and how are we going to go online, but there's some people who have to homeschool their kids now who don't even have reliable Wi-Fi or the devices that they needed to do their homeschooling. And that made me really think about how we are as a community, and how we need to support the people who were not as fortunate as us in this situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's hard once you sort of have that light bulb moment to not approach every day that we have with some gratitude for the situation or the position that we're all lucky enough to be in. And again, think back to our communities and maybe those who are suffering within it. And even if it's a small little thing that we can do for our community every day or every week, it does have impact. Absolutely.
I guess
Yeah.
For me, honestly, being through the thick of it, I think like the first couple of months where things were pretty much shut down, like the streets were deserted. And I think looking back at it, the fact that the community rallied to support us, I think the biggest takeaway from that is that you have to be thankful for the community that you have, and like the fact that they have made an effort to come and see you and like make sure that your business is doing well. Like I think that's huge. So I think for me the biggest takeaway from like looking at the whole situation is being thankful for the people that are our customers.
From what you shared about your business and what I've read about your business, it sounds like a lot of that is actually from what you've put out into the community. So it's amazing that you're thankful for that, but I think your community is probably really grateful for what you bring them every day when they just go get a simple coffee. So I think that's a mutually beneficial relationship there. I think that's pretty special. Yeah. Alexa Acker, as someone with a strange name, I'm sorry if I got that wrong, asks, what are some ways to foster a sense of community while needing to be solely online or keeping a safe distance?
I can take that one.
Sure.
This is something that I've been really passionate about for the last 6 months. So I'm the lead organizer for the local software development community. And it's actually been something we really struggle with. So pre-COVID, we'd have a meetup once a month and everybody come by, we'd get a bunch of sponsors, get some pizza, get some drinks, you know, listen to some nerd talk about something. And then, you know, we all hang out and have some healthy arguments. But that's really dropped. So there have been lots of new technologies that have emerged in the last 6 months for online conferencing. So we can do webinars like this, but really the conversation here is amongst the four of us who are here, right? And it's really hard to engage with the viewers, with the community. And if we want to foster a sense of community, we need actually a little bit more than that. There's some interesting technologies like Hopin and Remo. They offer slightly different functionalities, but there are lots of free resources like Slack and Discord that people are joining now. There is a little bit of a technological overhead though to get people online, so it's a little bit challenging. Not all the technologies work for every type of community. So, but I would really encourage you to reach out to anybody that you used to talk to once in a while that you don't talk to anymore. Maybe somebody in your office who works in a different department that you usually bump into in the hallway, but you don't anymore. Reach out to them, say hi to them. You know, schedule online chats and hangouts. It's different, but it makes a significant difference in people's mental health and just their wellness to have people reach out to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's easy to get lost in your day-to-day, especially when you're remote working at home and not prioritizing hopping on a quick video chat with somebody to reconnect. But it does really lift you up when you actually get to talk to other humans other than those who live in your house. And you do feel much better afterwards.
I love my children, but talking to adults is like a thing I like to do too.
Yeah. Even if it's with nerds in a presentation space, you get pizza and
Exactly.
drinks, so it's all great. Yeah. Karen Moores asks, how can business owners best support other local business owners during COVID? I know how as a consumer, but is there anything commonly missed for a B2B COVID buying?
I'll take that one.
Yeah, go for it.
Honestly, like if you're able to incorporate products from other local businesses, and maybe like if you have a restaurant or if you have a coffee shop, and try and incorporate just small ingredients from other businesses, even if it's just a little bit, like that means a lot, because it just means that you're helping other businesses locally rather than just buying it from Cisco, that is a massive multinational that they're pretty insulated. Like they have big bucks to where like small guys don't. So like for example, we actually just changed our menu. We got a couple of the fruits from the farmers market from one of the guys that sell fruit. We got our bread from 2 different bakeries in the city. I'm just trying to see like what can you source locally that you could incorporate into your menus to help other people out.
Cool. Yeah, there's a coffee shop across the street from me, and they actually set up like a mini marketplace where they're selling goods from local crafters. And it's just a simple, small thing that you can do, but you're bringing goods in from the community. And, you know, if you sell some here and there, it just continues to support and bring up the community. So I think that's awesome. I have one more question from Doris Young. What are some of the best practices to build presence during the new normal? I guess everyone should answer this one.
I guess I can jump in. I think, you know, maybe rewatch this session and just kind of pull the tidbits that we've all shared. So I think there's been some gems from everyone. You know, and again, just, you know, do what's best for you in your business, and then, you know, figure out, like, at the end of the day, you know your business better than anyone. You know what you need or what you don't, and if you don't know something, like I said, ask for help. So if I was going to say, you know, one thing, ask for help. It doesn't need to necessarily be financial or educational. It could just be like what does this word? I do it all the time. What does this word mean? And just trying to understand, you know, where we deal with a lot within the financial space, and I have no idea what the terms mean. So I'll reach out to accounting friends and stuff and just be like, hey, you know, I'm trying to fill out this document. What does this mean? And again, I know my limitations. So it's, you know, for anyone listening, like I said, just don't be afraid, jump right in, and don't be afraid to ask for help. We're all here to help you. I think we always were, but I think now more than ever, the help is there, and the help is, you know, is willing. So, you know, please reach out.
Yeah, awesome. And we have especially if you're a small business owner and you're working all the time, you only have so much time anyway. So struggling over trying to find an answer for something that you could just ask someone for help on, just ask for help. You'll get all your time back, hopefully, just by asking. Serene.
Well, I think she's looking to ask, is she asking about how to build like online presence, marketing?
Best practices, yeah, to build presence. I guess it could be online, it could be online. Yeah. I think is a good route to make suggestions.
How do you make you more marketable, I guess? So I think that figuring out what makes you different than other similar providers in your industry is a really good place to start. Before you do your marketing, you need to know what you're selling. And like Santiago said, he's not selling coffee, right? He's selling ethics, he's selling family, he's selling values, right? So what are you selling? Figure that out first. And then, like Darryl said, ask for help. Social media, online marketing, those are all very specialty fields. So you can learn it yourself, but you don't have to learn it yourself. Ask somebody, get a firm. If you don't like that firm, pick a different firm. If you don't like that firm, pick a different firm, right? Look for people whose values align with your values. Make sure they really understand what you are selling, that you are selling that you are selling happiness, right? That you're selling family, and that they really understand your value, and then trust them.
Amazing. Okay, last but not least, Santiago.
What are some of the best practices to build presence? Honestly, just use social media. Like, social media is a powerful thing, and just drive your message as to, like Darryl said it, like, you know your business better than anybody else. Tell your story. I think that's the biggest thing. Like, for you to engage people, you're not selling a product, you're selling them an experience, you're selling them a story. And if you try somebody to sell a product, they're not going to listen. But if you tell them a story about the product or why they should use that product without trying to like pitch him and selling it, like, that's more powerful than anything else. Like, look at some of the big guys out there that do marketing. What do they do? Coca-Cola never tells you to buy Coca-Cola. They just show you those little bears, how cute they are during Christmas. And guess what? All you think is about all that nice feeling when you're drinking that Coke. So just think of those little things. It's simple, and we don't need to like reinvent things. Just like tell your story, be genuine, don't copy other people. Just like tell your story and stick to it. Tell them about your values, tell them about what's important to you, because that's how you connect to people. I think that is the biggest problem with technology. It's we are so connected that we have disconnected ourselves with what we need to be, and we just need to be ourselves. We just need to use the tools that we have to portray that message to other people.
Amazing. Amazing.
Oh, sorry, Chris.
No, go for it there. Yes,
can
please.
I speak one thought in? No,
Please.
Santiago, I cannot agree more with what you just said. One of the things I always stress to business owners is whether you're running an agency, a coffee shop, a restaurant, whatever, don't underestimate the importance of building yourself as part of that brand and that presence. It's when you're a small business owner, you are the business.
Yep.
Regardless of what the business is, oftentimes people will lose sight of that. So, when you hear Santiago's running a very successful business, talk about, be genuine, be authentic, connect with your customers, be personable, tell your story. That's probably the most important thing that we've said today.
We're leaving on a really, really high note, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Yes. Amazing. Well, thank you everyone for participating in this session. I thought it was amazing. I did take a couple one-word notes before I hand it back over to Anne. It sounded like we had a lot of recurring messages throughout, or themes throughout this whole session. Know who you are as you're thinking about transforming. Know what your values are. Don't be afraid to listen and ask questions. Continue to be flexible. And if you commit to something, don't be afraid to change, because flexibility is actually a superpower and a strength. It's not a weakness. Know what your end goals are, and always look at the big picture. Take a step back and don't be afraid to think about what your end goals are and who you want to be. So that all came from you guys. Really wonderful message overall. Thank you. Anne, over to you.
Thank you, Karisa. It's time to wrap things up, as you mentioned. But before we do, I want to take a moment to thank our incredible panelists. Thank you all so much for sharing your experiences, insights, and stories of transformation. Karisa, a huge thank you for moderating this amazing conversation, and to our partner, Square Canada, for making this series possible. We look forward to continuing the conversation with our final event taking place next Tuesday, October 27th, when we'll sit down with Canadian business leader and resident Dragon's Den dragon, Arlene Dickinson. We hope you can join us. Lastly, at Nextdoor, we believe that local businesses are the lifeblood of communities. We are here to help businesses connect with their most valuable audiences, their neighbors, and we're focused on driving real hyper-local engagement. So if you haven't already, check out the Nextdoor app or visit nextdoor.ca to tap into your neighborhood, either as a member or a business. And again, thank you all so much for joining us. We will see you on Tuesday. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks.
Thank
Bye.
you.